one of the big things I took away from it was because of our persona and how we operated, we didn't want people treating us like stars. So they didn't treat us like stars. Everything was cutting corners with us. Oh, y'all don't
Yeah.
need that because y'all don't want that. Y'all don't need that.
Yeah.
So
Or y'all can
now,
do that.
or y'all can do that because we made everything easy. And so now I'm like, I'm not about making shit easy. It's like, nah, my man said he want to try 5 different restaurants just cause. Like, you got to sprinkle a little asshole in there just cause.
Let's get it started.
Double O.
Free range, motherfucker. Yeah. Check 1 2. You are back again with another free range podcast, and this is your host Double O. We always hear this idiom: those who can do, those who can't teach. Apparently, this is from a play, Man vs. Superman, or it's from Oscar Wilde. But we use it as a way to ascribe failure to people who teach and ascribe some greater worth to those who are practitioners and end up being successful. But when you break it down, the quote itself isn't talking about teachers at all. The quote itself is actually talking about those who spend their time talking about things rather than doing. Because teachers are very much doing all the time. And there's another quote that I fully stole from a Quora post while I was looking this up. It says, "An ounce of action is worth a ton of theory." And I think the original quote becomes extremely limiting for people because it leaves them stuck in a position where they say, if I don't do this thing and only this thing, then I can't be successful. And so at the end of the day, I think that ultimately the original quote is not talking about a profession, but is talking about inaction. And today on the podcast, we talk about action in the form of reinvention as it relates to the music industry. I was always told that if you can be of service, you'll always have a job in this game. And I think that holds incredibly true for my career and for people that I've seen that have been in it way longer than me. And I was really interested in sitting down with one of my compatriots in this game, the rapper Big Pooh. A number of years ago, he decided that he wanted to make his career as a rapper less of a priority and start focusing on managing new talent and artists that he saw around him. And this was not a consolation prize. This is a way for him to bolster, reinforce, and reinvent himself, as one of his homies said, through others. We always think about reinvention in a way that you're supposed to grow your hair out or cut it off, find some new clothes, move to a new city, and bam, you're a new person. But as we learned in this podcast, sometimes the best reinvention is by using what you've learned to inform others, to hopefully guide them towards success. So Pooh and I sit down and we talk a lot about how he approaches management now, how he uses his experiences to help convey the proper lessons to artists without getting in their way. We talk about the best piece of news that I've heard over the last couple of weeks was that Little Brother is back together. We kind of cover how that came to be. They had a show last year that really, I think, kicked off the potentiality for that to happen, and glad to see that it's about to happen. And how he's going to balance both now, that he's got other people's careers that he has to really focus on, but now he's an artist again. So check it out, free range, Rapper Big Pooh. Remember, you can follow him on @Rapper Big Pooh on all socials. Follow me @GoOOGODOUBLE0. Free range. See where it goes.
Yeah.
I am back for the second time because I took this guest advice on how to record my podcast. And after an extremely awesome conversation, that shit failed. So luckily, he was gracious enough to grant me with this time again. But this was free range, and we are here today with the formerly rapper, maybe now rapper again, Big Pooh. What up, man?
What's good? What's good? Hey
Chilling.
man,
We are.
I thought you could record off FaceTime, man. You know what I'm saying? My apologies, brother.
No. You can. It literally recorded screen. Recorded the screen the entire time, and then at the end, when it's like, oh, save it as a file, it just said failed to save, and then it was over. There's no There's no temporary file. There's nothing. It's just gone.
Well,
so yeah. Back. I know, and I'm gonna try to ease back into some of the same questions, but I want to kind of obviously refresh it a little bit. Okay. But what I actually wanted to start with is you've been doing this rap shit for a long ass time. I've been doing this, and I'm always curious as to how do you structure your day? Like, how do you separate work time, kicking it time, play time? Because we actually got into a funny conversation the other day, or this was a couple of weeks ago, where you were trying to make fun of fanny packs, I think, or over the shoulder bags, whatever you want to call them.
That sounds like me.
And I was talking about how I was like, man, but I might have a charger in there. I might have the lock to the garage, to the gym, joined in there. Like, I might have all kinds of stuff because my day is not scheduled in any way. Like, if I walk out the house, I may spend a couple hours at a coffee shop, but then it's like, oh yeah, it's time to go work out now. Like, there's no. Right. So do you have a structure, especially now that you are kind of balancing out?
It's loose. It's like I'll get up and first thing I do is check emails, text messages, stuff like that. And I start working on stuff for other people for the most part. Now I get into my stuff throughout the day. Like I intertwine it in, but it's loose. The creative part normally doesn't come until the end of the night. So I pretty much blocked it like that. So during the day is admin stuff. Midday is probably conversations with artists or other people I have to talk to. And then at night, it's the creative portion of the show, if I even get into the creative portion.
Okay.
And then I intertwine life throughout that. So it's kind of free range, man, as your podcast is saying.
Yeah. Do you have like blockouts in terms of days and times where you're like, this is just family time. This is just like, I don't work on Sundays or I don't work any, whatever.
I try to do that for Sundays. It gets tough. I mean, if it's important, I do it. But for the most part, I try to block Sundays out as the chill day just to kind of recharge. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what nobody say. Going hard every day as soon as you wake up to the time you pass out and not taking no time off, bro, you burn out so fast. Man, I've been burnt out before. So now I try to take that time on Sundays where I don't do nothing or get to a certain time at night. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and I put it down. And unless I pick it up, it ain't that important.
Yeah. My joint cuts out. It starts, my Do Not Disturb is, I think, like 10 or 10:30 till like 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just like, yeah, no.
Yeah, mine is about midnight. I normally about midnight is when I normally turn mine on manually and then let it do what it do. Just so I can just have that time to just recharge, man. Like, you need it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and it could be just me watching Netflix or something, but just doing something that isn't work related.
Yeah, no, I was just listening to this podcast before we got on with this investor, and he was talking about, and it's funny because I feel like it relates to very much how we all kind of exist in this music space. But like, he was saying that the ideal that we are, even though we're omnivores, we are more like the carnivores and the lions than we are like the herbivores. So we're closer to a lion than we are a cow. And because of that, our efficiency is spent in short bursts of productivity and then long chill times rather than extremely just long, slow grazing, just eating grass for 12 hours a day. Like our bodies, our mind, everything is not necessarily built for that. And I immediately kind of put it in. It was like, it makes so much sense where, you can go on tour for 6 weeks, whatever, and then it's done. And it's so much easier to do that than, you know, I don't know how people do the weekend things, but I guess that's a little bit better. But being able to just do these, you can't be doing the same thing over and over or burn out your entire day just working.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can see how the weekend thing works. It's because it's a short burst thing. It's like, boom, I got 3 days, and then I'm back to whatever
Mhm.
life, my regular life, whatever you want to call it. So it's not a thing where it's, then when you get to a certain point in your, career, it's like, man, going off for 6 weeks is tough, bro. It's like, at this point where I am, like, it's tough, like, it's like, yo, I miss my bed. I miss my woman. I miss my stove. I miss my. You just start missing all type of stuff. It's like, bruh, I'm living out of a bag, man. Like, so, I mean, it just depends on the person, obviously, but yeah, I mean, that's short burst, man. That's what this thing is all about. It's like, and that's what I had to learn as I got older to shut it down. It's like you can't keep going, like, because at what point do you cross that line of I'm just doing stuff to do stuff? Like, there's no real
Yeah.
purpose here, and I don't want to get back into that. So I just shut it down.
Yeah. Now do you, and this will kind of lead into the management thing a little bit, but looking at the way that you operate now, or even think about your career and work now, do you think that there are any benefits that you even impart on the younger artists, the things that you know now in terms of that experience, that to tell them, like, yo, don't waste your time doing this or don't waste your time doing that, because I'm telling you, it's not worth it in the end.
Um, I don't know if it's specific things. It's a case by case basis, but it's definitely times where I definitely let artists like, nah, bro, you don't got to, don't waste your time doing that. That's not gonna get you, theoretically, it's not gonna get you closer to your goal. Like, it may or may not, but you could be doing something that's more tangible right now that can accomplish that, as opposed to what you're about to do. So those are moments that you have, but I think those are more specific. Definitely be like, man, every time it's an open mic, you ain't got to be there. I'll definitely tell you, I understand. Like,
Yeah.
it's not necessary for you to be at every open mic, bro. Uh, but like I said, it's more specific based of the opportunity, timing, situation, and then you can make the judgment of, you don't got to do that. That'll be a waste of time, or you should do that. That'll be worth your time.
Yeah. What was the most useless thing that you remember doing, that you look back and you're like, yo, I can't believe we did that. I can't believe I did that show or
I
that.
I ain't even gonna lie, bro. The probably most useless thing I can recall right off the top of my head right now. I remember when we were signed to Atlantic. We tried the Minstrel Show. They sent over what is it called, a drop sheet, and it was probably about 500 drops we had to do. And so what we did, being the smart college guys we split the sheet up. We didn't do all 500 together. It's like, hey, go 250 for you. I'll take this 250. And they got it back. And even that was a waste of time. But they got it back. It was like, yo, it was like, look, man, we I was mad at myself at that point. I was like, yo, I'm mad I even did this. Because probably 90% of these people will not be playing our record on the radio. I just gave them a drop that they can play at their leisure, and they probably never played a song of mine ever in life, and probably never will. But I'm in their drop. Like, that was worthless. It's shit.
Yeah, I'm thinking about there's so many drop sheets that I've done, like so much. It is a never ending thing, and I just do it as a almost as like if that person you hope that even if it's never played, that person that got that is just like, ah man, yeah, like I don't know, they felt good in that moment that you at least cared enough to just be like, oh yeah, this person in Iowa with that's on college radio, boom, I got you, got you with something. I don't know. That's how I look at it to hopefully feel good about doing.
I just look at it as a waste of time, like a complete waste of time. That was hours, probably about an hour that I could never get back of my life,
Man,
and it's I mean when you just after about drop 15, you just like yo, this is very monotonous. Like how many times
yeah.
yo, this your man Rapper Big Pooh. Right now you checking out yo, this your man Rapper Big Pooh. Right now you checking out. Like, come on, man.
Speaking of the minstrel show time, um, do you look back and are you sad now that it is your fault, along with Eminem, that you helped expose white rappers to the mainstream in extent in putting Joe Scudder on the song, and now you've allowed them to fuck around and take over everything else going on?
Uh, Not at all, man.
Shouts out to Scudder, man.
Yeah, man. That's family, man. But nah, bro. It was bound to happen, man. It's like they want everything we do, man. They want in on the culture, and they're safe. They're
No,
safe.
no. I look. Every single rapper that I've interacted with in all that space, whether it be G-Eazy to Asher to like Macklemore, like they're all super respectful of, especially regionally where they're from, the culture. Sometimes more than a lot of other people. Like because they really had to, cross a burning hot coals just to be allowed in the club, half the time.
Definitely.
So yeah, nah, it was just I like fucking with Scudder. I just was talking to him yesterday and telling him that he should have figured out how to get on the new Real World cast by just wearing a mullet wig at his bar. But because apparently they shot at it there. They shot the whole new Real World. Like the bar scenes are were at his spot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But during that time in Atlantic and thinking about it's such an interesting era. And to be honest, we never got the chance to be in the major label system. So I didn't even really get the taste of what that machine was like. But what do you think, at least for indie artists thinking about being in that space, especially as you advise them now, what are like the pluses and minuses? What should they just be very clear on if they have that deal possibly on the table in terms of getting into the major label system?
Well, it's different now from when we were in it. Just how the game is. Period. You know what I'm saying? There's more DIY. It's more. Distribution is anybody can get it. You know what I mean? Like so, it's not that strain anymore. But always tell guys it's a resource thing. It's what type of resources are you looking for? What type of career are you aiming to have? If you like, look, I'm just a career artist. I'm good. I just want to tour. I want to put out my music. You don't need a major label for that. But if you want to become a star, you're gonna need that back. And and once you get there, I tell guys it's all about you got to force your way out. And by that I mean they can think you're talented and like you and sign you, but that doesn't mean you're gonna come out. It's tons of artists that are sitting on labels that were excited and they haven't seen the light of day for years. And it's like you have to force your way out as in releasing a project. And you still got to do all the work. Like just because you sign to a major label doesn't mean that my job is going to be a cakewalk. Like no, you still got to work hard. Like you're not signed to a major label because the way they're set up now is they do less work. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Straight
that's
up.
why that's why most cats are signed through other companies, production companies, is because the production company ends up taking on the burden of doing all the work, and the major label is just there to give the final push. So, those are the things I tell artists to be mindful of. Don't think, oh, I'm assigned to, Def Jam tomorrow and I'm on. Like, nah, you're gonna be in the same place you was the day before you signed to Def Jam.
Just with a bigger bank account for a
Hopefully,
little bit.
hopefully. You know what I'm
For
saying?
yeah. Was there something specific that you guys did or had to do in order to get yourself out, to get the single out and to get the project out?
Nah, we came in ready. We came in guns blazing. We had like 60% of the album done. We set
Okay.
a release date. They stuck to it. Like, I mean, it was some things that went wrong for us on Atlantic, but we did something very rare. Like, we came on, we gave them the project as it was going to be, no changes. We set
Yeah.
a release date. It stuck. We put the single out we wanted. It went. The only thing in that process was we didn't end up, that wasn't the video we wanted to shoot. They cut our budget, so that changed. And then they were hesitant to kind of get behind it because of the title. Like, they were scared of the title.
Mm.
It's like, ooh, man, okay, we gonna let y'all run with this, but y'all sure y'all don't want to call it something else? You sure?
All right.
So, and we also got caught in, it was the Def Jam takeover, what I call it. That was right when uh, Kevin Lyles, Julie Greenwald, and Leo Cohen
Lior.
had
Yeah.
came into the Warner system and Atlantic, and so we kind of got caught up in that shuffle as well.
Yeah. When you guys got off Atlantic, was there a did you feel like, oh man, we blew our chance, or was like, well, that didn't work, so this is just better. It's better rocking this indie tip.
Nah, it's actually Tay and I had a difference of opinion. We had other situations we could have entered into,
Mm-hmm.
um, major situations at the time, because we still had that fresh. Oh, Atlantic didn't know what they were doing with them guys. Smell on
Yeah.
us. So we had two particular situations where I was um I was speaking to I didn't actually get to talk to him because it fell apart before that, but Shaka from Disturbing the Peace at the time, he was,
Okay.
he was asking around about us. And then Capital, a guy,
Mm.
rest in peace, Ronnie, he had went from Atlantic over to Capital, and we went and met with him, and he told us, he was like, hey man, I sign y'all right now if y'all show me y'all release papers. But me and Tay had the difference of opinion. Tay whole thing was like, yo, I saw what it was like on the other side. I'm good. I'd rather just do this on my own or on our own. And I was of the, hey man, somebody may get it right. Like, so we just
Yeah.
we didn't end up going with anybody major at that point. But we had opportunities. Like, the opportunity was still there.
Yeah. What did you take away from the system that you guys were, at least when everybody agreed to kind of go in, I guess, the indie sort of space, and even when you started doing individual projects, what were you doing? Did you take anything away from what you learned in the system, the way
No.
that they operated? That no.
Nah, I just learned when you get back into the system. So even now, like, I'm not personally in the system, but I have an artist that's in the system. It's like you kind of learn, even though it's a game going in, you you start to really learn how to play the game. And when we were in, we didn't know how to play the game. It's all a game.
Mm.
You play the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We didn't know how to play the game. I know
So
how
now
to
you
play the
have.
game.
So what's the biggest difference between now and back then, in terms of like what you know? Like, is it like dropping cookies off to the project manager?
We always we treated everybody well. Um,
Mm.
but one of the big things I took away from it was, because of our persona and how we operated, we didn't want people treating us like stars.
Mhm.
So they didn't treat us like stars. Everything was cutting corners with us. Oh, y'all don't
Yeah.
need that because y'all don't want that. Y'all don't need that.
Yeah.
So
Or y'all can
now,
do that.
or y'all can do that because we made everything easy. And so now I'm like, I'm not about making shit easy. It's like, nah, my man said he want to try 5 different restaurants just cause. Like, you got to sprinkle a little asshole in there just cause. You know what I'm saying? But still maintain your professionalism and keep your relationships good. But sprinkle a little asshole in there just so they know, like, oh, we're dealing with somebody here. Like, we ain't dealing
There
with James from the mailroom.
no, there is a I learned that lesson years later too, and it was with I remember watching, I think it was like a Cuddy album release party or something. And I remember the way in which, like, he didn't really have the deal yet. It wasn't a lot of stuff, but the way in which that Emil and Pat were handling him,
Mhm.
like, you know, this is before Uber, so being able to have the black car and not worried about getting a cab in New York, but like also making sure that he had a secure way to leave and like all of this stuff that these just it was like little things that made everything around it be like, oh, that dude's a star, or that he's being treated like a star. And so then everybody begins to
Look at him
operate that way, and
like a star.
yeah, and you're training everybody to believe the dream.
Right. And that's where we fail miserably at. And and so, as like I said, as with when I'm dealing with my artists, I'm on top of them. I'm cognitive of certain things. You know what I'm saying? Even when
Yeah,
I want to revert back to my, yo, man, it's all good. I got to think about, like, nah, fuck that. Like, nah, make them pay. You know what I'm saying? Like, make them
yeah.
pay.
Yeah, now to jump into the management thing a little bit, what was the what was the day like, or was it a day, maybe a week, like when you decided that you were gonna start managing? Like what was the that first thought that was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do now?
Um, it was like, I don't know. It was like me coming to the realization of you got to put somebody else before yourself. Career wise, I ain't putting nobody before me personally. I ain't got no kids. Fuck that. But career wise, it's like I got to put this person needs and wants before my own. And once I got to that point where it's like, yo, I'm good with that, then it was easy. It was a seamless transition. It was just like I was already mentoring and advising, so it was just like that officially. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think once I set my needs and wants to the back and put theirs before mine, I was good to go. Like, that was my biggest hurdle, was doing that.
There was something important that you mentioned on the last recording of this that your homeboy told you in terms of like
Oh,
reinvention.
reinvention?
The quote.
Yeah, yeah. My guy Rich Bartell, um, he used to always talk to me about reinvention, and like we spoke about, I would I would look at reinvention in terms of, yo, I need I need to recreate myself. And his thing was reinvention should come through someone else. Like, you reinvent yourself through a younger person, and so you put a little bit of you in their DNA, a whole lot of them, and that's how you reinvent yourself. And so, for me, management ended up being a perfect way for me to reinvent myself through other artists. Like, I can help them, guide them, and it's them, it's their creativity, but it's me helping the guide because I've been there before. I've been where they're trying to go, or where they've been. I've been there as an artist myself, and, so that once I started looking at it like that, it became clear. I was like, yeah, this is a good thing for me.
Yeah. Um, you you were talking before about obviously things that you learned now that you could have done differently back then. How, because you've had a certain amount of experience in the game as an artist, obviously you have a you know a feeling and a need to just convey that information because you're like, well, I went through this and yada yada yada. But do you learn to stop yourself from doing that because the situations could be different, and and anything that you say that you may have learned back in like 2005, 2006, 2007 may not even be relevant now? Or how do you balance how much information or experience you convey versus stuff that you really just don't have the answer to nowadays, or
Uh,
stuff that you have to go and find new information about?
Once again, that's based on the situation. Um, I try not to go overboard with it because you're right, things are different. You know what I'm saying? And above things being different, the person is different. So the way I may deal with things or react to things, they may want to do it differently. So I try my best just to give pros and cons so they can see both sides and weigh it out and then make a decision based upon all of the facts that we can gather. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not big into pushing people a certain way. I just like laying out everything and saying, now you decide. Because this is your career at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah,
I'm solidified. I can retire tomorrow and be straight. This is you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I try to do it like that, man, and not put so much of myself into every situation, but I have the experience to lean on in case questions do arise.
for sure. And I know that, like, obviously, Doe, who is manager for you and little brother, has been a mentor, and in terms of learning, which you may not have known before in terms of management. Do you spend any time like reading books, reading any sort of, even if it's not like specifically management, even if it's just basic human communication books or anything like that? Because it's one thing to be an artist, and like you said, there's a life that you get used to in terms of certain things being catered to you, and it's another thing to really kind of step on the side and learn how to babysit one. um, like, did you have to learn new tactics, or was it something that came naturally?
It comes naturally, man. I just, I'll catch different articles or whatever when I see them. I haven't read any books specifically because once again, man, I'm just a firm believer of everybody is built differently. So the book that somebody wrote about their experience may not necessarily be mine
Mm.
because their temperament could be different. Their, how they problem solve could be different. So whatever they're saying, most of the time it's not going to help me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And vice versa. So I just try to lean off experience, man. And I know off rip, you can't deal with everybody the same. And
yeah,
it's just about learning the person you're dealing with. Like, I have three different artists. I have to deal with all three of them differently. I cannot be the same across the board. Like, that's just not going to work. Like, because they're all different people. So
yeah,
I had to learn how to interact with each one of them to not offend, but to get my point across. And some of them
yeah,
I can be a little bit more blunt with. Some of them I can't. Some of them I got to use a little trickeration. Some of them I don't. You know what I'm saying? But it's you learn that as you go along, and no book can teach you that.
yeah. It's, yeah, it's I've had to learn how to get better at that myself. Shifting into more of like a management, project management sort of space when it comes to artists, because you are so used to. And I actually would like to know more about this. Did you have to turn something off in order to not want to be a part of their creative process? Maybe it's different because because as a producer, I'm naturally always a part of, the creative process in a way, but knowing that those two things, business wise and creativity, sometimes just have to be entirely separate. Like,
I think
how do
what
you deal with that?
I think what helped me is in my own career knowing that I had to get the creative stuff out the way before I can get into the business portion because I couldn't operate like I needed to on either one of them, trying to do both at the same time. So when it comes to my artists, um, I'm big into the creative. That's what I do, but I don't step into their process. I let them work that out on their own. And then I'll come in with my advice, my opinions, my extra whatever. I'll come in at the end when they say, okay, I think I'm done. Okay, now let me touch it. You know what I'm saying? As
Yeah.
opposed to trying to be in the mix, because it's like you got to let them work it out themselves. And I'll concentrate on business things because I know I don't want you concentrating on that as you're trying to create, because it's not going to go well.
How much though nowadays though do you think that, as much as it sucks, that an artist, once the creative is done, needs to be a part of the business process though? Like, do you try to keep them as far away from it as possible, or are you guys working almost in partnership on the business side of things?
They
Or
can
it
be
depends again. Yeah.
they can be as involved as they want to be. You know what I'm saying? I don't. That's up to them. If you don't want to know how your business is ran, that's on you, bro. Like, I implore you to want to know, but if you don't want to know, then okay. But if you do want to know, great. Like, let me show you how this is done, or what we're doing, or I don't really make decisions without talking to them first. That's just the way it was done for me, and I appreciated that. So I give people a voice for the most part. I mean, it's some decisions I got to make in the moment's notice, and I got to lean on. Okay, do I think this gonna work? Whatever. But for the most part, I have a conversation. It's like, yo, this is the opportunity, or this is the decision that has to be made. What you think? And then we talk about it, and then we make the decision. Because, like, once again, this is their career. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want you as involved as much as possible, or as much as you want to be. Because if something fucks up, I'm not bearing the brunt of that alone. like, like you're gonna take some responsibility, bro.
Uh, yeah. I mean, especially in dealing in such these small teams, everybody has to just be like, if something just fucks up or fails, I mean, I guess it's everybody's fault to an extent, but the artist, yeah, should be willing to. So that's interesting. Before you became a manager, goes back to even that conversation we were having earlier about the record label thing and treating yourself like a star. Did you find yourself viewing the manager as somebody who inherently worked for you, somebody who you worked with, or somebody you were almost an employee of? Like, when you were starting out, how did you view management? And how
Um,
do you view yourself? Second part.
I always viewed it as a partnership,
Okay.
and that's how I view it now, as a partnership. Um, I don't work technically. I work for you, but this is a partnership. You know what I'm saying? We come to agree unilaterally. You know what I'm saying, on decisions,
Yeah.
and I don't like the employee employer dynamic, like, because we all grown. So it's just like it's like
Grown people got jobs too, though.
they do, but this ain't that. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're partners in this, in your career, and so that's how I always looked at it, and that's how I decided to do it with my guys.
Yeah.
I think that's
Uh,
just best for everybody.
yeah, I think that because management is becoming such a it's becoming such an interesting integration of all things now, because basically everybody has to do it themselves, just like you were saying earlier, where, like, you used to be able to just be the person that negotiated some deals and got that good percentage, but now it's like, no, we got to shoot these videos, we got to figure out these photo shoots, we may have to be a booking agent, you may have to be
Yeah,
a
you got to get your hands dirty now, man. Got
makeup artist, whatever you got to be.
whatever you got to do, you got to do it, man. Like, you got to get your hands dirty. You got to get in the mud with your artist, man, and that's what a true partnership is.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you I know you aren't managing any female artists now. Is that a choice, or is that just because you haven't come across something that you've been interested in yet?
Both. Uh, I'm good. I'm good on the females right now, man. I need some females on staff in order to have females, because female artists, like, it's a whole different dynamic, man. And me personally, I'm just like, I need females on staff to handle that. Like, and it's not even on no Rick Ross where I'm gonna want to hit him at like that.
First of all, the fact that he got a lot,
Like
I still can't believe they allowed that conversation to
I
air.
I applaud his honesty. You know what I'm
But
saying? But
do, do you really like? I looked at that whole situation from him commenting on Angela Yee and why she was wearing a coat over her legs and covering them up for him to not be able to see, to having to fuck his female artist because because he invested money in it, and some of the craziest shit. He's being truthful, but
that's what we dealing with out here, man. That's what I
it's
said.
wild.
I rather know this is how you feel as opposed to find out on some other shit. So, I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, for me, that's not me. I don't have that mindset. It's just I don't want to deal with the temperament. Um, Dealing with artist temperament is enough, but you got to deal with a female artist temperament. I ain't built for that. I ain't built for them Cuban links, and I can admit that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I'm obviously that's a space that I'm in now, and I find myself. For me, what's inspiring is I try to take all the stuff that we learn in this indie space and in whatever, and re-engineer it in a way. Because at least the way I look at it is, if it wins, the upside is way crazier,
Way
right?
crazy,
Like
definitely.
when it goes, there was a story that I was told once, and I don't know if this is true or not. But Will I Am was talking about how Fergie got put in the group. And he was like, yeah, he was done with Black Eyed Peas. He had started working on Fergie's solo project. And he walked into the office and he was playing the Fergie solo records. And Jimmy Iovine was like, yeah, these are dope. These are dope. He was like, you know what? Put her in the group. And he was like, nah, Jimmy, like the group is done. Black Eyed Peas is done. Like, this is what I'm working on now. I'm producing this artist. He's like, no, put her in the group. He's like, nah. He's like, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go outside. I want you to get in my car. He's like, I want you to go to the closest newsstand. I want you to count how many men are on the covers of magazines and how many women are on the covers of magazines. And I want you to come back and tell me. So he went and did it. Said he came back. It was like, whatever, 85% women on the cover of magazines versus, 15%. Jimmy was like, exactly. Put her in the fucking group. And that was basically, what he said is just what pushed it over. And it definitely is an interesting space. And I'm glad that, like, nah, this is not what I am, built for, because it does need to be much more personal. I've talked to Punch about it a couple times, and it's a learning curve that's very different, because we could show up like whatever, but
Women can't do that.
nope, not at all. And it's not even, to me, what I've noticed is it's not even so much the internal pressures that come from a woman just being a creative, as much as it comes from the external pressures of what they have to do to be what is assumed of them that has to exist in order to be an artist. There's a cost difference, straight up.
Very much so. I just want to tell you, my phone is gonna die on me. So uh, I didn't.
All right, what?
Yeah, I'm out here burning through bars out here.
Okay, I feel you.
Yeah. I got a nigga. I'm on 2% right now.
All right, well then let's get to the shits. Let's get to the shits. So you had there was a Little Brother reunion show last year, right?
Yeah, September.
And that was kind of the beginning of what I'm assuming is the conversation to reunite the group now. I guess, again, talk a little bit about what, and even unfortunately you're gonna have to repeat yourself a little bit, but talk a little bit about how that came to be and why you guys decided that this was the right time to put the group out.
It was just it just came about organically, man. After that show, it was just a thing of we felt we were all in the proper space to move forward and try to put the band back together, so to speak. We felt our personal relationships, were strong enough at the time, and then it was just about, okay, what does this look like? And as we had those conversations and worked through certain things, we just realized it was better going forward with two, as opposed to three. And And then even still, me and Tay had to, okay, now what do we look like? Like, how do we work this out? How do we figure this out? How do we construct this? And it was just, like I said, it was just conversations that had to be had, man, because things are different. You know, this is almost 10 years later. This is, you know, we all got multiple things going on. So just trying to figure out how all that fit into bringing back what we know becomes dominant over our careers once we revitalize it, and that's Little Brother. Like, it becomes the end all be all for most people. So just
Right.
realizing what that was going to look like and trying to figure that out.
And does it sound different? Because do all of the things that you guys have explored individually now get put back into the group in a different way, or do you guys go back to square one, what you think people love Little Brother for, and still just feed them that?
It sounds like Little Brother, man. That's all I can say. Like, we it sounds like Little Brother. You know, we did everything together. We wrote every word together. We recorded every word together. And we just made what we felt like Little Brother should sound like in 2019, as opposed to trying to make 2004 Little Brother all over again. Like,
Yeah.
we just made our version of what we think Little Brother should sound like in 2019.
And how are you going to personally, now that you essentially are, you're responsible for all these other artists, how do you now balance that out, shifting back into something that will be more demanding as an artist?
That's what business partners are for. That's that's what me and Doe have, our company for. And, you know, he's there to pick up a lot of the weight, but I'll still be there to handle, the beauty of the internet. I'll still be there to handle a lot of things. Um, you know, it's not as hands on as, for some part of the time. But once again, it's not like we're going to go on no 6 week, 9 week tour where I'm just out of communicado for 9 weeks. So it's a balance in that on my part for sure. And it's something that I definitely, got to make sure I manage correctly. But once again, I got a business partner, and everybody is familiar with everybody. So slack can be picked up on the other end where, where I have to step away, or when I have to step away.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, because I know the phone is about to cut off.
Oh, yeah,
thank you for the time on the redo at your office at the Whole Foods. What do you even get at Whole Foods?